Why would a loving God condemn an innocent soul, someone who has never even heard of his existence, to an eternity of torment? This is a question that often challenges the very foundations of Christian belief, and perhaps you've encountered it in conversations with others or even wrestled with it yourself. To understand this question, we need to consider what the Bible actually says about human responsibility and God's revelation. Scripture tells us that every person is accountable to God, whether they've explicitly heard of him or not. Romans 1:20 explains that God's eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen through what has been made, leaving people without excuse. This means that the evidence of God is embedded in the very fabric of creation. Every sunrise, every star in the sky, every beat of our hearts is a testament to his existence and glory. Ecclesiastes 3:11 adds that God has set eternity in the hearts of men. This suggests that there's an inherent awareness of God in every human being, a longing for something beyond ourselves, something eternal. Yet, despite this internal and external evidence, the human condition is such that we often choose to ignore or reject this knowledge. Romans 1 verse 21-23 points out that although people knew God, they neither glorified him nor gave thanks. Instead, their thinking became futile, and their hearts were darkened, leading them to worship the creation rather than the Creator. This rejection of God is not passive but an active choice. It's a rebellion against the truth that God has made known to all. This is why God's judgment is just. As Deuteronomy 4:29 assures us, anyone who truly seeks after God will find him. But Romans 3:11 makes it clear that no one naturally seeks God on their own. Our sinful nature drives us to create idols, whether they be physical objects, ideologies, or even our own self-image, things that we place above God. Now, some might argue that it's unfair for God to judge those who have never heard the gospel, but the Bible emphasizes that people are judged based on the knowledge they have received and how they respond to that knowledge. Romans 2:14-15 speaks of the law written on human hearts, where even those who do not have the law by nature do what the law requires. This shows that God's moral standards are known universally, and people are accountable for how they live in light of that knowledge. If we assume that those who never hear the gospel are granted mercy from God, we lose our motivation for evangelism. We also run into a terrible problem. If people who never hear the gospel are automatically saved, then it is logical to make sure no one ever hears the gospel. As Christians, the question of fairness should not lead us to debate, but to action. The real tragedy is not the theoretical fate of those who haven't heard, but the reality that many have heard and still reject the gospel. Jesus' command in Matthew 28:19-20 to make disciples of all nations, and his directive in Acts 1:8 to be witnesses to the ends of the earth compel us to share the good news. This isn't just about saving people from hell, but about inviting them into a relationship with the God who created them and loves them. Our mission is urgent. Those who die without Christ face an eternity separated from God, and that reality should ignite in us a passion to evangelize. As the Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians 9:16, "Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel." His words remind us that sharing the gospel is not just a duty but a privilege, a response to the grace we ourselves have received. While the question of God's judgment on those who haven't heard the gospel is complex, the Bible gives us a framework for understanding it. It is not that people are ignorant of God. Rather, they have rejected the knowledge of him that is evident in creation and in their own hearts. Our response should be to share the gospel with urgency and compassion, ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to hear and respond to the message of salvation through Jesus Christ. Use the comment section below to share your thoughts, and if you feel like you need help, don't hesitate to ask for it. Let's use this space to support each other in our spiritual journeys. If this video has touched you, please share it with others, like the video to help it reach more people, and don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.